So, what would you say are some of the most common challenges structural engineers face when presenting complex technical concepts to clients and stakeholders, and how can they overcome those obstacles?
And I think you kind of hit the head on the nail on the head right there. It is a very technical product. What we recommend is really, just don't put numbers up on the slide. And what we were able to do through our program was increase that engagement through the webinars to 48%. So we went from here to there, and we're not just putting out numbers, but you're wrapping a story.
Do you know that over 300 million people use Zoom, yet a staggering 70% of professionals struggle to convert prospects simply because they fail to engage their audience? That means most professionals are losing potential customers, not because of their knowledge or skills, but because their Zoom calls fail to capture and maintain attention long enough to drive action. Join us in this episode as we talk with webinar engagement expert Jeff Brandeis, founder and CEO of Engaging Webinars, to uncover the biggest mistakes professionals make when trying to convert prospects on Zoom and how to address them. He'll show powerful yet simple strategies to captivate your audience, build trust, and turn passive listeners into paying clients. If you're looking to transform your virtual presentations and see real results from your Zoom calls, you won't want to miss this. I'm your co-host, Matt Picardal.
And I'm your co-host, Alex Detto, and this is the Structural Engineering Channel.
Hey, Jeff, can you start by sharing a little bit about yourself, your background, and how your career journey led you to focusing on engaging presentations and webinar strategies?
Sure. So I started my career really as an accountant. Spent 5 years in accounting firms, and a good friend of mine, David, got into this software company and said, "Hey, Jeff, we have this position as a support rep and going into people who start to do presentations and to sell our services. Something you'd be interested in." Well, I kind of first said, "No, I'm a shy guy. I'm, an accountant. Typically don't go into that sales role very often, right?" But I went for the interview, decided to give it a try, and honestly, I had the most fun in my life the first couple of years as I kind of branched out and blossomed. And as I started enjoying life, started enjoying presentations, I quickly moved up the corporate ladder and eventually wound up being head of VP of sales for a 100-man organization. And when you're in charge of sales for a software company, you're obviously in charge of presentations. So, before Zoom came around and all these other tools that we have today, I was doing presentations, since the beginning of my career for the most part. And, when Zoom hit, or I should say COVID hit, it kind of turned the world around into going away from that physical presentation to the virtual presentation. And I look back on that time frame, and everybody got thrown into Zoom or Google Meet or some type of a virtual world, but no one was ever really trained on how to do virtual presentations. No one really ever learned how to interact with clients. And as this journey continued, about a year and a half ago, I said, it's got to be a better way. And that's when I developed Engaging Webinars, and we have an app that we use as well to get that engagement better when you're using Zoom or using any virtual platform to get that audience totally engaged in what you're presenting.
Yeah, I know it's I remember the transition when we were kind of just all forced into online meetings. And I think every company was just trying to see how it works. Oh, let's get some happy hours, via Zoom. And, the engagement was different. It was definitely a different environment. And I think everyone was just trying to figure it out. So yeah, I'm excited to see some of the guidance you provide.
And in today's world, when you can easily pick up one of these things, engagement becomes more important, because if you're not engaging your audience, they're picking up their phone, they're turning off their camera, they're doing email, and you lost them.
Yeah, right. Because if they're at home, it's not just, they're not stuck in the room with you. They're at home. They're looking at, I don't know, whatever's in their room or whatnot, or their phone. and you can't see them. So it's that much more important to get the engagement up before everyone just logs off. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're presenting oftentimes when you're doing a webinar just to a screen, so you don't really get a lot of feedback from the audience, and it can be pretty hard for an audience to pay attention. Like you kind of alluded to, lots of calls come in. There's other work to be done. Sometimes they just need a PDH credit, so they signed up. Maybe their interest level is low, and then when the subject gets very, very complex or highly technical, people tend to tune out. And I know we've looked at internally, taking a deep dive into technical for a couple minutes just to get the information out, but then you have to bring it back up to reality and make it a little bit more approachable. So what would you say are some of the most common challenges structural engineers face when presenting complex technical concepts to clients and stakeholders, and how can they overcome those obstacles?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the head on the nail on the head right there. It is a very technical product, and being able to convey that in a easy, simple manner that's kind of compelling, as well as being able to keep that audience engaged, is what we recommend. Is really, just don't put numbers up on the slide. Don't just throw a whole bunch of data out there. Kind of take a look at it like telling a story. Here we had this client that was producing the structural engineer maps, and it was producing, maybe a 12% return on their investment at the end of the day. And what we were able to do through our program was increase that engagement through the webinars to 48%. So we went from here to there, and we're not just putting out numbers. You're wrapping a story around how the numbers came to being, why the results changed. And if you want to be able to keep that audience engaged, just don't throw facts and figures on the PowerPoint slide and expect everyone to kind of digest it. Bring them along, slowly, bring that story, bring it to life. Make believe it's them. And that's really what you're going to be able to do to turn that, I'll call it the ordinary presentation, into something that people will never forget. Unforgettable.
Yeah, could you share some of those key elements that make a webinar well structured? So in terms of the audience, you can take them through that journey to actionable outcomes.
Yeah, we have a process that we call PRIME. It's an acronym, PRIME. So the P is for present with clarity, deliver compelling content, but keep it simple. And R, rev up that interaction, ask questions, get people involved, put a polling question up. To me, a webinar is twofold. You provide information to your audience, but you should get information back from your audience as well. So finding out what they're doing today, how they're treating a certain condition or construction, or what they're building today, what are they working on today, gives you, the presenter, the information to come back. And you got to structure your presentation so it flows naturally. You want to be able to take them from that pain that they're experiencing, so to speak, and bring them along to really what your solution is going to be. And you make it natural, you make it easy, and you're being able to navigate them through your journey that you want to do. And then you want to be able to manage the stage. So you want to control that virtual environment. And you do that with changing the scenes, doing a poll, yes, no type of questions, where you're at, where you're calling in from, and you're being able to elevate that engagement. An engaged audience while you're presenting will convert at a much higher rate than the non-engaged one. So that's PRIME, PRIME. Present with clarity, rev up that interaction, improve your workflow, manage the stage. They're here to see you. And then E, elevate yourself and your engagement. And one of the quick things that I'll add, when you're doing your presentation, stand up. Your body language, your enthusiasm is going to change. I stand every time I'm speaking, I'm standing now, and your mannerisms just change once you're standing.
I'll need to get a standing desk.
I have. Exactly. I do that. I put mine up when I'm doing my presentations, and then I sit when I'm.
And I just wanted to do a quick shout out too. I know you have an engaging webinars program too, where you go into depth in these, right? Could you just talk a little bit about that in case our audience, really wants to get into the details about this?
That'd be fantastic. Yes. So we are engaging webinars. What we do is we make your presentations. We help you go from that ordinary presentation to an unforgettable one. So we work with our proprietary software program, Engage Hub, and we also work with a product called Stream Deck. So Stream Deck is a push button piece of equipment, and it allows me to navigate quickly and seamlessly. So I want to go from a PowerPoint slide to a PowerPoint. I click my button on my Stream Deck, and now I'm on the left, my PowerPoint's on my right. I don't become what I like to call that Hollywood square, where I now join everybody else up in the bleacher seats, and you can't see me anymore unless you actually want to. Then if I want to switch over to my iPad, I click another button, and now I'm on my iPad. So if you wanted to go to an illustration or a structural engineering design that you have on maybe a website or on your iPad, I do it quickly, seamlessly. You will never hear me or any one of my clients say, I'm going to share my screen. Do you see my screen? I didn't hear me. You will never say those words again when you use engaging webinars, because I know you can see my screen. I know you can see my PowerPoint, and I know because that's the technology that we built in. So it's a totally different ballpark, totally different arena, and we make presentation effortlessly for you and smooth. Really, at the end of the day, it's easier for you, and your audience is going to love it as well.
That's cool. You took the words right out of my mouth. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen? Yeah, definitely relate.
99% of the webinars, they're all the same, right? Tell me when you can see. Do you hear me? Raise your hand. Yep. Do you see my screen? Raise your hand. Okay. Put it into chat where you're calling in from. Okay. 99% of them start that way. And every once in a while, somebody will ask a question. Yeah, put yes in the chat or put a question into chat. And if you're using our program, somebody asks a great question to chat, I can actually click it and bring it on screen.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's more of that engaging experience that you were saying. It's not just a Zoom call. It's kind of like a show where everything's pretty seamless. It kind of reminds me of a talk show, or someone had a great question and everyone could see it on the screen. And in terms of engagement.
Well, 68% of our audience of people are visual. They learn better when they see things. And then the other 15% comes from hearing. So when you're combining what you're saying to the visual impact, your audience is just going to really get it. It will gel. They'll see it, they'll experience it, and they basically will feel it. So it's much more effective to do presentations this way.
Yeah, it sounds like you're kind of moving webinars away from what I would compare to like in college for a lecture format where you're in this large group and you're silent and somebody's up there talking, and sometimes I can feel like they're droning on and on and on, and that's a pretty easy way for people to fall or have their attention spans fall short. But with all the interaction and the kind of the features of that program intertwined, you're making it more of a small scale class, even though you're presenting to God knows how many people.
It's a classroom. And even if you're one-on-one and you're going over structural design for somebody, the fact that I can actually draw also on my structural design or highlight something, it makes that engagement from the other person feel like I'm sitting next to them. Okay. And yes, we're taking that virtual feeling with that effect of, the distance away, because now you're doing almost everything that you would be doing if I was sitting right next to you across. Yes, I'm not shaking your hand physically, but I'm drawing and highlighting the things I would be drawing and highlighting if I was sitting next to you. So yes, it's more interactive. It's more classroom. And my push button, one of my pet peeves in webinars, if you don't mind me share, is someone pulls up a slide and they talk and they talk and they talk 10 minutes on that same slide. And why? Okay. You should be able to get off, stop sharing that slide if you're spending more than 2 minutes on that slide. People want to see you. And with our program, you just push a button, and now I'm back online 100% to me, as opposed to having still on my PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. You get to see the narrator of the story, and even some illustrations along the way. And I think, I look at that when I try to do a webinar or a presentation. I'm trying to get information out, but I want people to understand and kind of internalize that information. And we try to kind of follow more of a storytelling format. So, how can structural engineers utilize storytelling techniques to make their technical presentations more compelling and gain buy-in from a non-technical audience?
It definitely is talking about storytelling. We've all worked with clients. We should be able to relate our experiences to what we are talking about today. Okay. So I've worked with business coaches who want to grow their business. I've worked with fitness coaches that want to do more virtual online presentations, right? And we adapt, or we kind of create that engaging webinar based upon the business that the person is working in. Structural engineering, yes, most people have a tremendous amount of experience in this building structural designs, or the graphics, or creating the blueprints. And just create a story. I worked with a coach very much like you that was looking to build this storefront or this high rise. Okay. And we spent 14 hours just drawing over these blueprints one by one by one, floor by floor by floor. Okay. And then eventually this was the design that we came up with. What are your thoughts about this design? Okay. What did I do? I brought you into a story. I brought you into something that you could relate to, right? Because you've been there. And now I'm asking for feedback on that design that was done for my other client.
What about some of the best ways that engineers can use webinars to showcase their expertise, attract new clients, and make an impact?
Really, at the end of the day, we all are using webinars in many different fashions. One of the most popular is to drive prospects to a webinar so they can learn about you, right? Many prospects feel less fidgety. They feel more comfortable conceivably being with other people on the webinar than being on a one-to-one basis. So during a webinar, really what you're trying to do is trying to bring together people that are in your market, in your target market, your avatar, as I like to phrase it, and ex- tell them stories. Tell them a little bit about your history. Tell them what you've done. Bring about some case studies. Bring together a testimonial and how you've transformed other structural projects or engineers that you've worked with and what they've actually experienced with you. Webinars right now are the number one way to really drive prospects to get to a meeting. I mean, really, at the end of the day, you're probably not going to sell somebody a structural design, but what you're trying to do is get that one-on-one meeting at the end of the day. To book a meeting, book a call at the end of the webinar so you can get more, to get to the next step of the sales process, as I like to say, or the funnel.
That all makes pretty good sense to me. You're trying to drive a little bit more engagement, make it a little bit more personal. So it sounds like you're thinking a little bit along the lines of, not only what does my audience need to know, but how is the information I'm presenting making them feel? What does it mean to them? So how does audience psychology influence engagement in webinars, and how can engineers use it to improve their presentations?
That's great. I mean, a lot of our people who do webinars, all they think about is, I want to present. I need to tell them, this is what I do. I'm great at doing this. I can build you the next Empire State Building, and you can, trust me, I'm fantastic. Okay. But that just goes over the people's heads. That's not what they want. I mean, you're hitting a great point there, Alex, is they want to know what's in it for them. Okay. How do you relate to what their challenges are? How can you help them get to be better at what they're doing? How can you convey to them that you're the answer that they're looking for, basically? So you're trying to uncover some pain, quite honestly, and then you're trying to bring them along, as I talked about earlier, to that passion of pleasure, is that I'm the guy for you. I can help you. I can fix this. So putting yourself in their shoes, not so much what's in it for me, but what's in it for them is going to get you miles ahead of your competitors when you're doing a presentation. It's so important to keep that in mind. It's they don't want to hear what you've done, what you're going to do, what you're great at, and that'll come out as you tell your stories. But when you relate to them, that you've experienced what they're experiencing, that's what's going to get you, on expression, the brownie points, and it's going to get you to get them to book that appointment with you at the end.
Yeah, and I think it's incredibly difficult in the webinar format too, especially on the technical content, because you might have 20 people in that webinar that do have the attention span and the want and the need to look at the equations and dig into this super technical content, but then the other 80 people involved have no attention span for that. They want, broad sweep of the concept, and they'll go look into it later when they have more time. So trying to find that balance of dipping in, dipping out, and holding everybody's attention. Yeah, I guess it's a long way of me saying I think when thinking about how they feel along the whole time span kind of helps you target your webinars so you're hitting a broader audience. But if you know your audience is less broad, then you can kind of tailor it a little bit more towards that audience.
Yeah, I mean, part of that also, I think, is setting the stage, Alex. So in your first couple of minutes, you got to come out with something that's compelling. It's going to catch their attention, whether it's a video, whether it's a story, something to that nature. But somewhere in that beginning, you go kind of talk to them and go, all right, my objective today is to provide you a broad overview of structural designing. And I'm not going to get into a whole lot of details today. If we want the details, we can discuss it during Q&A, or we can have time at the end, and I'll show you how to book an appointment that we can get into more details. So you set that stage of what you're going to do, what you're going to present, and stay to that aspect of it. And don't get sidetracked if you get a question of, hey, how do you do that? Can you get into more details on all that? Okay. Sometimes what I like to call is, I'm going to park that question for the moment. I'm just going to put it on in a side lot. Okay. Alex, great question. Okay. What I like to do first, if it's okay with you, is provide everyone here the kind of the broad overview of what I said I was going to do in the opening. Is that okay? If we have time permitted at the end, we can get back to it. Otherwise, we can schedule a one-on-one to dive deeper into your question. Would that be okay with you, Alex? So what I did, okay, let me back up. I addressed your question. I got permission to move on, correct? And I did not ignore you. So I made you feel good, I think, or at least I hope I did, by acknowledging your question, getting permission to get back into my content, and also providing you an opportunity we'll discuss it later or on a one-on-one. Did that make you feel good?
Yeah, I think so. And I think if I was to take myself out of the Alex position in that discussion and put myself in the Jeff position, one, you acknowledged and you got to stick to the content you were trying to deliver, but you also now have a follow-up contact of somebody that's very, very interested in what you had to say.
Correct. The last thing you want to do, and it's all part again, is go down a rabbit hole that you don't really want to go down during a webinar when you got 20 people in the room and you got one person that's trying to take you down off the course on the side street into that parking lot that you don't want to go because you just lost 19 other people that want to hear what you just said. So if you never heard that expression, to park the question, that's a new expression that I would encourage you presenters to begin to think about. And it's very polite. I mean, hey, great questions. I appreciate it. If there's time, we'll get to it. Otherwise, we'll schedule another meeting, just you and me, and I'll go through it. Is that okay, Alex? Very non-consuming, non-threatening. You continue on your webinar.
Yeah, I think it's a very professional way to handle it, and also kind of protects the time commitment of everybody else that came to hear what you plan to say, because that is how I feel when I'm presenting. If I get derailed, I go, well, then the other 19 people kind of missed out on the other topics I wanted to cover. And yeah, this is very difficult in the webinar to even get questions. So I appreciate what you said earlier about more interaction and ideas about that. I think there's a lot to be gained by the programs that you offer and the type of content that you can help produce.
Yeah, I love presenting. I love presenting our tools. For me, it's second nature really at this point. So it's fun to dive into new things, new areas, and presentations. Yeah, your first couple, yeah, it may not be the best, but you know what? That's okay. We all improve. We all get better. And as they say, even the top athletes, they got coaches. No one bats 1,000. No one hits a 100 free throws all the time. We all strive to get better at what we do, and that's what we do as presenters as well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a follow-up question about that. I know you mentioned early on in your story you're an accountant, which is pretty technical, and then you kind of got into a role of, all right, you're probably in a technical role where you probably don't speak to too many people. Now you're in like a presenter role. How did you get over that? Because I think probably a good amount of engineers have kind of that same mentality where, we're technical at first. We're not really trained in most of our curriculum to go speak. How did you make that transition? What encouraged you to keep going at it?
For me, it just became another avenue of goal setting. I want to get better at being a presenter. I mean, honestly, we present ourselves every day. Okay. When you really think about it, this might sound a little corny, but you walk into a bar, you go up to that girl, okay? That's a presentation, okay? You're selling yourself, believe it or not. Whatever that first line comes out of your mouth, it's either going to be a hook or you're getting hooked out, right? Or it's just a question of building that confidence level. And one of the things that we do with our program is we do those test runs, we get those people comfortable, we do dry runs, and I'm from New York. If you haven't figured that out, we there's a famous Carnegie Hall where most of the major orchestras play. The old joke is, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? It's practice, practice, practice. Okay, it's no different than speaking in front. Yeah, I get jitters every once in a while if I got to go on stage and I'm live and I got 1,000 people, or you got 5,000 people virtually. But once I get going, everything, I'm fine. It's okay. So it's one reason why I stand up, because I find my energy level is higher when you're standing. And I can't tell you, when people sit, they tend to put their their hand over their mouth. They start to slouch, and it just changes your whole demeanor. And if you're enthused, your audience will be enthused. It just resonates through.
That's great. I had one more question. Do you have any final piece of advice that you can give to engineers aiming to enhance their online presence, presentation skills, and engaging with clients as well?
It really comes down to, you're welcome to come to our website, engagingwebinars.com, and we have a guide that you can download that will provide you some tips and ideas on how to do more engaging webinars. And obviously, I'm happy to speak with anybody and help them on this journey, because it is a journey. But dive into it. As you'll do it, you'll feel a little nervous at first, one or two. But like I said, as you get comfortable and you get practicing, you'll get smoother, you'll get more confidence, and you'll be up and rolling in no time. So just do it. The old Nike, I guess, slogan is just do it. And if you get the fear of that you don't want to do it, another trick I would say is, most people say count to 10, and then you'll jump, right? Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But the problem with that is it's so easy to go to 11, 12, 13, and you'll never jump. All right. So institute a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do it, because once you get down to 1, you got to go do it. So you can't stall it. Don't delay it. Presenting, we all present, and it's just the fact that now you're virtually or you're doing it over Zoom. It will come natural to you.
I like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 because I basically stopped counting down, and now I do ready go, just so there's no time to think too much. And stage fright was a huge issue when I first started public speaking. It's less of an issue now, but it's still kind of run into it. And that's kind of the strategy that I adopted is like, oh, you either have to or you want to do this. So get up there, and when it's time to start, ready, go, and just get into it. But I'm curious, is that the method that you are using?
Yeah, you just do it. You just gotta. I mean, there are things I don't want to do. I know what I do well, and I know what I don't do well. And the things I don't do well, we tend to procrastinate and put it off. So what I've started doing was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and no more procrastination. You just got to do it. And your business, your career, your money, your future is all around presenting. With all due respect, personally and professionally, it's all around presenting. So the more confidence you actually have presenting, through business or virtually, it will reflect in your own personal life as well. The way you hold yourself, the way you present to others, even when you're live on a one-to-one basis, it will transform you in either situation. So it's a great skill set to have if you haven't gotten it yet. And honestly, I'm always looking to improve myself too, and always do things differently, or try something different every once in a while. So it's anything that you actually master all the time, but it's something you can consistently want to improve upon.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm just thinking about even different positions where you don't necessarily need to be the salesperson of your company or whatnot. Even if you're just a typical regular engineer, you're doing engineering work, you're new, you're not a manager, but you're reporting to one. You still have to report what you're doing, especially if it's an online environment. You still have to report what you're doing to your manager or whoever is going through it. And if you can't explain it well, because I've gone through things where it was like, oh, that wasn't explained too well, where some people kind of just ramble on and you don't really know what they did. But then you can tell the difference with the ones that do know how to present. It's like, oh, you did all of this and you presented it in XYZ manner. There's a big difference, especially even online now too.
Yeah, you're 100% correct, Matthew. I mean, whether you're a VP of sales, CEO, or you're just starting your career, a job interview, even. I mean, you're presenting yourself, virtually these days. And if you're able to master some of the tools that we talked about today, it's life-changing. It will get you that job. It will you'll get known in your organization as, hey, you're the presenter guy. I want you to do this webinar, or I want you to do this presentation. And, that's also great for a career path for people to grow into as well. So it's presentations. They'll be here for the next hundreds of years because nothing's going to stop a presentation because we still have to all present.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We would love to hear your feedback, comments, or questions. To leave them, please visit structuralengineeringchannel.com. There you will find a summary of key points as well as the links to any of the resources or websites mentioned during the episode. Don't forget to subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And until next time, we wish you the best in all your structural engineering endeavors.